Hi, I'm Mr. Stewart. I lead maths at Upton. This video today is to talk about KIRFs, or key instant recall facts. You may have heard them before, it may be brand new to you. But this video is to talk about what they are, why we use them, and also how you can best support your child with them. So, the first thing is, what are KIRFs? KIRF stands for Key Instant Recall Facts, and they purely are the really important facts, the important bits of knowledge that children need to master in order to really excel at maths. These are things such as times tables, they may be angles, they may be factors and multiples. They are key little bits of information that we know will really help children as they go through their maths education. What's really important though about these facts is not just knowing them. For example, if I said to a child, what's 6 times 4? And if they went 4, 8, 12, and so on, okay, until I got to 24, that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the ability to instantly know that fact. So if I said, what's 8 times 4? 32. What's 8 times 8? 64. Having that instant recall will help children when they come to more complex maths as they go through the school. That mastering of the information will really support and help them to learn more tricky, more difficult things. So why are learning math facts important? Well, these high level maths, so anything from year 3 all the way up to GCSE and above, will include maths where you've got to do multiple steps, where you've got to do more than one things. And maths problems where actually you may struggle to see what the problem underneath or what you need to do is. Well, by knowing some of these instant facts, by having some of the instant recall of these facts, some of those math problems becomes easier. Let me take the example of long division. If I'm teaching a child how to do long division, they need to learn the process of how to do that. Now, if they don't have instant recall of multiplication facts, the issue then becomes, midway through me teaching long division, they then have to stop their brain thinking about that to think about actually what the times tables are. When they've worked out what the key times table is, they can then go back to the long division. That causes a break in thinking, which causes children a few issues. If they've got instant recall, it means that they can solve those problems much easier. Also, problems where you've got word problems like a man has 3 apples in each of his bags, he's got 8 bags, he sells 2 of those bags, how many apples does he have left? If I've got instant recall of fact, I can almost see through those problems and reveal the underlying structure for a maths problem. So knowing those facts help me to quickly understand and see through maths problems. They also help children to feel successful because recalling some of those facts, you can see that instant improvement. You can see yourself get better. Now that breeds motivation, and it also helps to reduce maths anxiety. A lot of maths anxiety does come from the lack of understanding. It comes from a lack of knowledge or feeling like you don't really grasp something. But by actually giving control over this small area, by giving control over learning these facts, it does help to reduce that. And we've found ultimately that then helps children to know more about maths, which helps them feel more comfortable in maths as well. Many adults have already learnt these facts automatically, and sometimes I struggle to see why children can't do simple maths in their head. But that's because things that are automatic to adults, like 4 plus 4 is 8, or like 12 take away 6 is 6. So those straight away answers they know straight away, they don't realise sometimes why children can't do it. And that's because adults learn all these things when they're at primary school, but they can't remember learning them, they just know them. So it's important to take this time to actually get children to rehearse these facts so they have instant recall, and therefore maths problems become easier. Let me put that into practice with this question, and if I might ask you to think, what's 8 plus 7? Now hopefully those watching will be able to say 8 plus 7 is 15. The question is, well, how do you know it's 15? So it'll be one of the following ways that you've done. You might have memorised the fact already that 8 plus 7 is 15, and you might have that information stored in your head already, and you might know that. You might have had to work it out a little bit, and you could do that by working out, or breaking down, 7 into 2 and 5. And therefore, once you've broken down into 7 into 2 and 5, you know that 2 plus 8 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. You might have done it that way. You might have realised that 8 and 7 are close to double, so you could double 8 to give you 16 and subtract 1 to give you 15. You could have doubled 7 to give you 14 and added 1 to give you 15. Or you might have done it the final way, to start at 8 and count up 7 using your fingers, so going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. Now that way, out of all of them, is the least efficient. Because to do that one, that's not using a stored fact. I'm having to use my brain and separate myself from something in order to count up. The other 3, I don't need to use much brain power for. It's a fact to know. And in order to know those facts, in order to be efficient, we need to make sure that we know our number bonds to 5 and to 10. Okay. In the first way to answering it, if you've already memorised a fact, that's what we call memorising a fact of a number bond within 20. The second one, I would need to know my number bonds within 10. Okay, or my number bonds to 10. And that helped me to understand that. But it's only the knowledge of those number bonds which will help me to see this structure. And when I'm talking about this, when I've then got a problem like 4,568 plus 2,017, if I can instantly know that 8 plus 7 gives me 15, when I put this question into what we call a column addition, instantly knowing that fact means that I can straight away work on the question rather than having to count up my fingers, which you can't do with 4,568 plus 2017. We don't have enough fingers. But when we're doing it in terms of column, by being able to know those facts straight away, it helps me understand and quickly answer the problem, and more importantly, check if that question is right or wrong. Now you might be wondering, isn't this already covered in school? And the simple answer is yes, it is. Everything that's covered in these KIRFs is covered in their normal regular maths lessons. And we also have daily ready steady maths sessions where these facts again are covered and we rehearse them with children. However, what we do know is that humans forget things, children forget things. And you can see just on the screen there what we call the curve of forgetting. And this is from scientific studies. It shows how people, humans, just forget things. So you can see the blue line there is the idea someone's been taught something and never been taught again. And you can see over time, over 4 weeks, it almost goes back to nothing. They forget everything to do with it. Then the pink curves are every time that information is being revisited. And what you can see from those curves, and this was from scientific study, as you go through them, the more times you rehearse something, the more it stays in your brain. The more times you have to think about something, the more likely it is to stay with you. So the first thing is, if children are practicing this more often, they are more likely to recall it. The second thing, and I think more importantly, is that studies show that when parents become involved in learning, some of the learning, children's attainment massively increases. So by actually rehearsing some of these things with children, it will boost their attainment. And the reason for that is because when parents engage with the learning, children see that parents value it and believe in it. And so because of that, the child believes in it more and engages with it more as well. Now what you can see on the screen here is our KIRF layout, our KIRF curriculum if you like. So these are the key facts that are developed all the way from reception, the facts that we expect children to learn in reception, and the dates and the period that we'd be looking at them for, all the way through to year 6. So you can see how these facts get harder and harder and harder. But the belief is if over time we build through this and we develop their skills, these difficult facts that we have to learn in year 6 become much, much easier because all the groundwork, all the difficult bits been done, but it's been structured bit by bit over time. Just because these things done in reception in year 1 doesn't mean they'll never be revisited again. Believe me, I teach year 6 and all these things, number bonds to 5, number bonds within 100, we still need children to do in year 6. So it's really important that we do these not just in the later years, but all the way through their school life to really help them become more and more confident with their maths. So how much needs to be done then? So we've gone through all the facts, we've talked about why they're important. I would say you don't need to do huge amounts. Little and as frequently you can is really helpful. Personally, I would be sticking these things on the fridge door, and I have done this with my own children. Put it on the fridge door. When I go past, ask them a few questions. You might find it better to actually have a scheduled time when you go through it. I find that little and often when I'm passing it, it works much, much better for me. It's what works better for you. I would say being able to do it 5 to 10 minutes, 3 times a week will have a massive impact. And even if you don't cover the whole curve, even if you don't master it, actually by revisiting it regularly will have a big impact. Ultimately, doing something is better than doing nothing. And it says it can happen at any time of the day, on the way to school, in the car. You could be recalling it, during dinner, after dinner, while they're clearing up. It could be just before bedtime, just as you come home, whatever works best for you. Ultimately, it's that regularity, though, the regular effort with it, that will really build up those skills and help children become more confident. Obviously, within school, we've also got numbers and times table rock stars, which cover a lot of the same skills. So you might say, should my child still do numbers or TTRS? The short answer is yes, really. If you wanted to do them on alternate days, if you wanted to do them where actually you're doing it combined, so your child might do a bit of numbers and followed up with a bit of KIRF. There might be times tables followed up by a bit of KIRF. You might want to do them on alternate days. Ultimately, though, whatever you can do with your child will massively benefit them. It will help their recall, and the regular going over it will help it. Generally, we would like, in an ideal world, for the KIRFs to be covered 3 times a week, numbers or times table rock stars to be looked at somewhere between 3 to 5 times a week. Ideally, every day, 5 times a week is better. And again, we're not talking about huge amounts, we're talking about 5 minutes. That's what we're saying. It's not great deals of time. So we'd be saying, 5-10 minutes on KIRFs, 5 minutes on TT Rockstars. That's about 15 minutes of maths, which really isn't a huge amount for something that will pay off massively. Now, I am aware that people may say they're not very good at maths, although they may have maths anxiety themselves, so they may be afraid to support their child. They may be worried about teaching them wrong. So because of that, we have created these booklets to go home with children. Now, these booklets will tell you and help you out with everything, and I've tried to make it as simple as possible in order to help everyone who are busy with time. There's certain things you may choose to ignore in it, which is absolutely fine, but there's certain things that you may really need to look through. And what you'll find in these booklets for every year group is at the beginning bit, key bits of information. And that's made up of actually, how the sheets are made up, what they look like, as well as key tips to help. So it says practicing little and often, don't practice everything at once, breaking it all down, using online platforms to support as well. Okay, so little tips there at the very front of it. Then after that, you've got a page each page dedicated to a skill. So you can see on that last one there, that's what a page looks like. At the top, it says what the skill is or what the fact is that they need to be doing. So you can see that one says to identify how many objects there are without counting. It's then got some example questions that you might ask the child in order to help you. It's got some key vocabulary. Now, if you're really confident with maths, that's all you need. That bit just to kind of rehearse, keep going with children, using the correct vocabulary in case you're worried about saying the wrong thing to the child. That's the language that we use at school. And it's that idea, if you're confident with maths, you can do that, and that's absolutely fine. If people are less confident with maths, what I've tried to do then is give a suggested breakdown. Over 3 days, 3 things that you could be doing to break down is to try and help your child a little bit more. So I've tried to give a suggested breakdown for you there. You may not want to use that. You may find that cumbersome and difficult, in which case that's absolutely fine as well. Then at the bottom, it's got key advice. So that's bits that I think are really important to remember when you're looking at this information, this fact. Okay, what the purpose of it is, perhaps what the key thing you must say or the key things you must not say when you're teaching it, just to help you out that little bit more. And then right at the bottom, again, something you may wish to use. It's something that I thought was helpful when I was trialing these with my own children. It's just to check on actually, did they get this or not? So have they got the facts memorized? Do they have instant recall? Have I checked it in the future? Because obviously, just because you've done something in autumn 1, actually when you're in the summer, you might want to go back and check if children have got it again. That's something that we do in school. We will go back and make sure that children are, have learnt it and are secure in it. Okay. So when you are doing these and when you start rehearsing, you might find the child struggles, which is absolutely natural. As I say, we will go through all of the information with children in class before they bring them home. So you shouldn't be teaching them. It should be rehearsing something they've done in class. But your child might struggle. They might forget. The first thing I would say is the sessions that you're doing with them should be relaxed, fun, and enjoyable. They shouldn't be horrendous hard work. They shouldn't be something that ends up becoming a fight. It should be like a game show, quick questions, backwards and forwards. It should be fun, okay? And it should be a chance for your child to prove what they know, okay? If, however, they are struggling, I would say don't put pressure on them. Don't make it feel that they can't do something. Instead, scale it back. Reduce how much information that you cover. So if you find your child is really struggling, reduce how much you cover in one of these sessions. Perhaps do a few facts rather than lots of different facts. You could do lots of call and response. For example, you might say 2 times 3 is 6. Get the child to repeat that exact phrase, and then you might say afterwards, so what is 2 times 3? Just really basic things just to get them rehearsing some of it as well if they're struggling. Ultimately, the hope is they won't struggle. The hope is that, you know, they will be successful with this, but doing something, even if it's less than perhaps you think they should be doing something is much, much better than doing nothing. Even if you only learn, instead of learning 12 facts, you might learn 4, or you might have memorized 4. Well, that's 4 more facts they might have memorized than if they hadn't have done it. So you may feel like you're not making as much progress as you want, but doing something is much better than doing nothing. And ultimately, if your child is really struggling to remember and recall the facts, and you're starting to worry because they're not recalling what you'd expect them to do, if they're not understanding things from class, do speak to your child's teacher for advice and support. They might be able to help you. They might say, for example, a certain fact will pick up and do some specific work on in class, or they might say it's perfectly natural. But your first port of call, if your child is struggling, to definitely go speak to your child's teacher to seek their advice first. And so, if you have any further questions at all about it, as I said before, child's teacher in the first instance. So they know most about your child. They know most about the KIRFs that you'll be learning in that year group. So definitely speak to your child's teacher in the first instance. If there's a technical problem or query that perhaps your child's teacher can't help with, the teacher will pass it on to me and I'll help directly with that. But again, I know I've said it several times, but I will say it one more time. Any support or help you can give will have a positive impact. So even if it's only a little bit of time once a week, that's going to be better than no time at all. As always, thank you very much for any support you can give. And thanks for the support with your child's development. Okay, thank you.